Hey, everybody. I am Dr. Andy Roark, and this is the Uncharted Podcast. Guys, we got a great one today about the team is asking if we can stop taking new clients, and the leadership is like, no, we cannot do that. And the question we got is, how do I talk to the team about this? We did a period in the past where we stopped taking new clients, and now they kind of want to go back to that because of some staffing changes that we have coming up, and leadership does not believe that that's a good idea. How do we talk to the team about this? How do we make them understand why we're not going to go this way? So anyway, this is a really great episode with my friend Maria Pirita. We get into this together. Guys, it's a lot of fun. Let's do this thing.
And now, the Uncharted Podcast.
And we are back. It's me, Dr. Andy Roark, with my dear friend Maria Pirita. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Taylor Swift released some new music, and everyone's listening to it. It's good. It's a good time.
It is.
To be alive.
What a wonderful time to be alive. Yeah.
Yes.
No, I had no intention of listening to Taylor Swift's album until you were talking about it, and then I was kind of like, well, I gotta listen to this, and now I am enjoying it.
I am so glad. I am so glad that you did, because
sure
you would have missed out on such a wonderful album. I mean, you know the life of a showgirl more than any of us, I think, right?
I listen to it a lot now.
That
I do.
Light. It's just good. It's just good.
It's very fun. It's very new. It's funny. I just wrote an article to come out this weekend, and I was talking about it. I was like, I kind of picked this up on a whim, and I listened to it. I'm like, this is nice. I enjoy it. It makes me happy. It's kind of poppy and fun, and like, I can listen to the whole thing. It makes me happy. And then I was like, I wonder what people are saying about this album. And that was a mistake. Because then I go online and people are like, it's amazing. And other people are like, it's terrible. And they like fight with each other. And like some people are like, it's because Taylor Swift has found happiness and she'll never write another song worth listening to again. And like these really dramatic things. And I was thinking about it, Maria. And I think that we live in a world now where we have been conditioned to believe that what people say online is important.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of like tech companies and media companies.
Their opinion is important now.
Yes.
That's the other issue. It's just
100%. My opinion should be heard. And like, I really do think that there's like this kind of self-centeredness that we've all kind of picked up. Yeah. But it's individualization, like self-focus, and like people are like, you guys need to hear what I think. And I just thought about all this, and I'm like, I don't care what these people think. Like, the album makes me happy, and that's really all there is to it. But it's funny. I think that, like, in a lot of ways, we've come to this weird place where, I need people to bless what I like in order for me to feel good about it. And I don't want to live that way. That's just bananas. But I think a lot of people have sunk into that. We need to agree that this is good so that I can be at peace. Like that.
Yeah, I think it's obvious that you're new to the Swiftiness, because
he's probably nothing new.
For us, we've had to deal with this. For us true Swifties, we've had to deal with, like, when Reputation came out, people were like, why is she a bad girl now? And when Folklore came out, it's like, who does she think she is? An indie artist? So it's like, at this point in the Swiftum, it's just like, I know I'm going to get made fun of for listening to Taylor Swift, and I don't care, because it brings me joy. And I do resonate with the life of a showgirl, so sorry, you can't. I don't know. That's just how I feel. But also, in general, I think music is one of those things, like, I find it really funny, Andy, because I try not to be this snarky, but anytime people do make fun of me for my taste in music, the first thing that I think about is, like, you realize that I speak multiple languages, right? I listen to music in more than one language. There are poems, idioms, beautiful literacies that you cannot even grasp because all you speak is one language. And you're making fun of my music taste?
Oh,
sorry, you don't speak Taylor Swift, sir. But it is beautiful.
It's funny. I look at my kids and the stuff that they're into. My oldest daughter is like really into theater, like design, and my younger daughter is into robotics, and that's their things. And I'm like, I don't want anyone to take that joy away from you. Like, you know what I mean? It makes them happy, and I'm like, don't listen to anyone who tries to tell you what you should do or shouldn't do, or what you should enjoy or shouldn't enjoy. And it's just kind of interesting, but. Yeah.
I'm glad you're raising them that way. It's really, really important, especially in the world and like with so much pressure, because it's just like, if you could if the Andy Roark can fall victim to like, let me hear what other people think about this so I can validate my taste. I mean, obviously,
Totally.
any one of us, it could fall into that. And so I think a healthy reminder of that every single day is probably pretty good.
I think part of being alive and being happy today is doing the work every day to remind yourself of these things.
Yeah.
Like, of course, you don't need me to tell you, like, really, if you don't,
Some of us
you don't
need you
need
to tell
anyone
us
else's
that.
opinion. But everything feels like a slippery slope towards, these like stuff online matters and being validated and approved online or just by other people. This is important and what other people think is important. And you need to pay attention to other people and what's going on in the world. And there's enough truth in that. I think that it kind of keeps us kind of coming back. And then I think it's a slippery slope to sort of overdoing it. And so I think a lot of life is like figuring things out and then slowly forgetting them and slipping back into bad habits or into things that don't make sense. And then you have an epiphany and you climb back out of the hole and then the whole thing starts over again. But yeah. Well, hey, we have a nice mailbag today that is kind of about that sort of thing.
Kind of about perception. Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Totally.
We got a question in the mailbag that referenced one of our other podcasts, which I think is great.
I love that. Yeah.
I know. Near the end of podcast 380, not taking new clients was
360,
suggested.
I think it was. We're
Sorry,
not at
I don't have my
380
glasses
yet.
on. You know what? I'm gonna
Get
put
your
mine-
glasses on.
I know. All
Look
right.
at you. You look so smart. I mean, you looked smarter
really?
before, but like now it's just like
I look smarter.
smarter, like the smartest.
I think the
you
word
could
you're looking for is
possibly-
old. I think the word you're looking for is old.
There is real
All right.
studies to show that people perceive people with glasses to be smarter. That was the joke, actually.
Wow. People
I'll
with
show you.
glasses and headphones are more likely to have headaches, I think.
Oh,
All right. Near the end of podcast 360, not taking new clients was suggested briefly as a solution to breeding resentment at a clinic after a doctor has to pick up the slack. It was quickly deemed as a last resort option and ultimately suggested that the discussion of not taking new clients could be an entire separate podcast. It sounds like they're taking us up on the separate podcast idea.
Yeah.
I am a partner at a large animal ambulatory veterinary practice in the Midwest. We recently had a part-time doctor go out on medical leave and is expected to return in a few months. One of our doctors asked if we would stop taking new clients until they return during a team meeting. I explained it hadn't crossed our mind, which I'm just going to pause here and say, good call, way to take it in the meeting and say, we hadn't really thought about that. Like, not commit to anything, not give an
Yeah.
answer. I like
Major
that. It was
props.
a really,
That was good.
Just get out of the room, which is a good call. We have 2 more vets on staff currently compared to a year ago, and also had another doctor on maternity leave during that time for 3 months, who was the individual asking about taking new clients. So the person asking about taking new clients has got a little one at home, apparently. So therefore, we were very short-staffed during that time, especially when doctors took vacation, but we made it work. We did stop taking new clients for about a 6-month period during that time. How do I explain the importance of continuing to take new clients? I probably don't articulate it well. A large portion of our business is dairy. We have had a few smaller dairies sell their cows as consolidation continues in our industry. New dairies don't pop overnight. Our role is changing on our larger dairies. I would really appreciate your perspective on this topic from the small animal side. Great. So first of all, thank you so much for asking this question. It's a great question. And then also letting us talk about small animal. We'll talk about the dairy business just a little bit, but for the most part, this doesn't change. The underlying problem of the staff is like, hey, why don't we just stop taking new clients? That doesn't go away. This is actually the second conversation I've had about this week. And so it's really timely. And yeah, I'm glad that they asked about it. So let's start in a headspace place. Maria, like when you think about headspace, and the team is saying, hey, look, we're really busy. We've got somebody going out. Can we stop taking new clients? What are the thoughts that you have before we make a plan on how to address this?
I particularly chose this mailbag out to do with you because I love talking about new clients because I was a marketing director for so long at a veterinary clinic. And so it's just one of those things that it hits home for me so much because I regularly had to deal with something similar, like what is the purpose of new clients? Why do we need new clients? So just from a headspace perspective, obviously we need to understand where they're coming from, right? Bottom line is first thing is we need to understand where they're coming from. And obviously there's some sort of overwhelm somewhere. And it will be.
You think so?
Well,
do you think that there is? I don't know.
If
maybe.
they are wanting to stop taking new clients, there's a reason for it, right? And whether it's that this doctor wants to go home on time because they want to see the kids,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
It could be that. It could be because they are short-staffed during certain periods. It could be because maybe they're just short-staffed during vacation periods and we're not staffing enough. No matter what, there is some sort of overwhelm, and that's why they don't want to take on more new clients somewhere. Whether it's because they're short-staffed, because they're not leaving on time, whether it's because they don't feel like they have enough appointments in between or enough time for their appointments. Whatever it is, there's obviously something going on. Otherwise, they wouldn't necessarily just say no new clients. Why stop there? Why not no clients at all? No more clients.
Maybe they just know that we're not going to get rid of clients, and so they're like, well, let's do the next thing. No, okay. So here's my headspace, right? The reason I think that this is such an interesting question, right? Of can we stop taking clients? And no, we can't, and maybe we want to, and things like that. I think the underlying crux of the issue is there's really not good measurements of capacity and how we're doing. It's a lot about how do we feel and how do we perceive that things are going. And so I think that that's a real challenge. Now, it is, I sort of try to put out both sides of this to sort of unpack it. It's not fun when you are being asked to work beyond your capacity. There is a place where you have a team and we can see so many people and the floodgates are just opened up and clients sort of dump in on us and dump in on us and dump in on us. There's a place where medical quality starts to get reduced, where people are not getting breaks or they're not going home anywhere close to being on time. It's not even about compensation. It's just we can only handle so many things and do a good job before we're really tapped out. I've definitely worked in places where I have felt like I cannot do a good job with the quantity of people that I may be asked to manage in one day. And I mean, I'm talking about clients, and so that can be really defeating. Also, if there's no end in sight and you say, I'm going home, I'm exhausted, I'm miserable, it's late, I immediately have to get up and go back to the clinic, that stuff burns you out. And so there is a risk with pushing the team, especially if volume is high. There's a risk that people are going to quit. And they're going to go, I don't want to do this. Or a place down the road goes, hey, we don't have days like that. We've got more vets but more support staff. And if you come here, you won't always feel like you're drowning and failing. And you can start to lose people. And so there is definitely, I think, there's a case to pay attention to volume. I would also say that, vet medicine is changing. And I don't want to make big generalizations here. I think that when people who are, say, working for a practice group start to hear that upper management wants us to increase the number of cases that we're seeing, I have seen people get pretty resentful about that, especially if they feel like they're working really hard and what they're being asked to do is not reasonable and it's being forced upon them. And so I have seen people get pretty upset to the point that they do want to leave their jobs. And so I'm not trying to dismiss this out of hand. On the other side, I think this is really challenging because I think a lot of it is sort of about emotion, right? And it's hard to know if you are doing as much as you could be doing or if you are working sort of efficiently. It's funny, I've worked with a lot of different practice groups, you know what I mean? And you have as well. There are some groups where you walk in and say, all right, guys, the schedule looks full. And they're like, that's nothing. Like, you know what I mean? Like they are like, this is fine. And there's other groups you walk in and the schedule is 3/4 full and they're like, it's going to be a wild day. I don't know.
There's also groups where you have
be
one
able
of
to hold
each.
on. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And exactly right. And inside the team, you'll have different people like who have those different perspectives. But you can see that. And so there are some teams who are like, this is great. Let's rock and roll. And they'll have a wild day and they laugh at the end of the day and congratulate each other. And there's in the other groups, you go, they're like, that was really stressful. And you go, really? That day? That was stressful? And so it's just sort of hard. I think that it can be challenging because when the team reacts and says we're overwhelmed, sometimes they're reacting because they really are overwhelmed. Sometimes they're reacting because their perspective is that they're overwhelmed. Have you ever seen somebody who's, they're having a fine day and then the people around them are like, this is terrible. We're just getting overwhelmed and we shouldn't be treated like this. And suddenly the person who was fine before is like, yeah, you're right. And their sort of perspective changes. And so it's really hard because of that objective measure. And so you can see both sides of it. I want to make sure that I'm taking care of the staff. And in my experience, it is dangerous to give the staff a handbrake that they can pull whenever they start to feel like they're too busy. And I'm not saying that's what's happening here, but I do think that, unfortunately, if we have a level of busyness that we want to have, we're generally talking about the average level of business. And what that means is for every time that we're kind of all standing around not doing stuff, we're probably going to have a level where we're going, oh boy, our plates are really full and we're now hustling. What we can't have is we stand around, we get busy, and then we pull the handbrake and stop taking people in. You know what I mean? Or cut down on walk-ins. That's not a sustainable business. We can't support the practice and make payroll and do that sort of stuff.
Well, I think two things can exist and be true at the same time, right?
Okay.
And so I think that the staff is feeling overwhelmed. And I think you're right that there's no metrics to say whether that feeling is truly justified or not. And so I think that that's where the diagnosis really, it doesn't matter in figuring out what's really happening here. Because I've had teams that, you're right, they can feel overwhelmed. And I'm like, our staff efficiency score, though, means that we are perfectly staffed. So there clearly is a different problem. And you don't know what that problem is but at the same time, the staff still, in their eyes, they're overwhelmed. They still feel. And so it's important that we recognize that feeling, because they're going to need a little validation, a little help, a little bit, if we're going to change that perspective. You just can't come to the pet owner and tell them, no, your dog's not itchy, when they're like, no, clearly he's scratching though, like profusely at home, right? It's just, we have to be able to recognize that there's clearly a feeling here of overall, whether it's justified or it's accurate, that's a different story. But two things can exist in the same space. So they can feel overwhelmed, and we could say that we don't have a metric to say whether that is justified. So I think that that's probably what's happening, is a little bit of both.
I like that a lot. And so I also want to say, from a headspace standpoint, and again, the question was sort of like, how do I communicate we really don't want to stop taking new clients? Taking new clients is a lever that you could technically pull, and some people do pull it. And this practice had done that before. It sounds like it was a short-term thing. Again, shout out to this practice. If you're going to do this, I really like the idea of saying, we're going to do this for X amount of time, or until this doctor returns, or something that lets them know this is not how it's going to continue to be. But I want to make sure that there's clear expectations. This is not how we're going to live for any sort of long-term going forward. To your point, like, this is a lever we can pull. There's lots of other levers that we can pull.
1,000%.
And so just saying we're not taking new clients, as you said, two things can be true. They might be overwhelmed. And the answer is in our ways of working, in how we're communicating, and how we're supporting, how we're scheduling. There are lots of other things that do not require us to actually turn away clients who want our help. And, once we stop taking new clients, and I think this is important for the staff to understand, there is a dead period. Like, I don't have a new client button where I can say, great, I'm going to press the new client button, and now clients are going to start sort of spawning into our clinic. It doesn't work that way. And so in this case, and I think they gave us the answer right there, switching to the specific dairy, and you say, hey, look, we've got dairies that are closing, and the larger dairies are like what we're going to need. Like, those are the clients that have to support us. And if we don't take one of these larger dairies, that is a huge deal for us. And if the smaller dairies continue to close, I mean, there's a very good chance that we are going to see diminishing business. And if we don't continuously work to bring new clients online, new dairy clients, we're not going to have anything. I'd say the same thing is true in small animal medicine, too. There was a study that came out in the American Animal Hospital Association. This was back pre-COVID, it came out. But it was basically, it showed how the value of a client increases over time. And it said, I'll get the percentages are going to be wrong, just so you know, but it was something like a client in their second year at your practice will probably spend 50% more than they did in their first year. And in their third year, they'll probably spend 73% more than they did in their first year. And it makes sense. You build trust with this client. They understand your policies. They have become educated. They can, by continuing to coming back, they have shown you that they're hearing you and they see value in your services. And you're building, that trust relationship, which is kind of the bedrock at Uncharted and what we talk about. And so if you stop taking new clients, it's not like you're going to flip the switch. Clients are going to come walking back in and you're going to have great relationships with them. You're going to have clients come in who are new clients that you're going to need to build that trust with. And there's a lag time there. And so I just don't think the staff understands the ripple effects that come from not having fresh blood sort of entering into the ecosystem. And so anyway, that's kind of headspace for me.
Well, and you're so spot on, because I am actually somebody who will side with don't ever stop taking new clients if you can avoid it, right? Like it's a lever you can pull, but it's one of my last levers that I will pull.
Yeah.
And from a headspace perspective, if the team already saw you do this once, that's why that's the lever they're reaching for.
Yeah, they know it. They've seen you do it.
Yeah. They're like, hey, you've already done this in the past. I know that you can do this again. So we've kind of almost, in a sense, from a headspace perspective, already opened this can of worm once, closed it, and now they're like wanting to open it again. During COVID, we saw a lot of clinics because we were super busy. We were super overwhelmed. So many of them, that's the first lever they went to. They were like, we're not taking new clients. And then what happened with those clinics, Andy? Because I know a lot of my friends at the time then were like, the rush is over, COVID is gone, and we're dying. We don't have any clients coming in. We weren't taking new clients for a long time. And now all of the clients we have are clients that we've retained, but we've also lost a lot in the process. Because you have to understand the reason why new clients are it's the same thing as the dairy farm. It's so important because your patients die, people move away, relationships end. How many times do you lose a client because of a divorce and they decided to go elsewhere now with the pet? There's so many different, like you are literally losing clients, not even because your services weren't satisfactory, but simply because that is life. You will always have some sort of turnover and you always need new clients to kind of replace those ones that are leaving.
I think you're really spot on. I think the last sort of point I would make here, and I think you already sort of touched on this really nicely, there are a lot of really good vet clinics out there. And when clients can't get in with you, they don't sit at home. They go find someone else. There's opportunity for growth of other businesses. I don't think a lot about competitors. I don't like to talk about competitors and what they do. However, if I stop taking new clients and Maria's like, we will see these new clients, there's a chance that Maria's going to, like her business is going to grow. And if she can manage this growth, she's going to have resources to pay her staff better. She's going to be able to possibly hire other doctors to handle more capacity. She's going to be able to invest into the latest equipment and medications and therapies. And you know what I mean? There's just a chance where that, if you can handle that tide, she's going to become a much more difficult competitor to kind of work around.
And I love that you pointed that out because that's exactly what happened. So there was so many clinics in my area that weren't taking new appointments or were too busy. They weren't taking new clients. But since we had a really good system, which I'll talk about in the action steps, we actually ended up gaining some amazing clients. Like the clients that literally don't bat an eye. They're willing to comply with everything that you're recommending them. The kind of clients that bring in goodies and snacks and stuff like that. And the reason why was because their original clinic had told them, we're too busy, we can't see appointments, but we were still taking in new clients. And at some point we did have to change it. And it's not that we stopped taking new clients, but new clients had a 2-week waiting period. So we were still taking them, they just had a waiting period. So that's kind of like some of the ways in which you can kind of finesse, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But in that process, we still were able to gain those clients that literally absolutely loved us, that were brand new to the area, no fault to them. They just couldn't get in anywhere else, right? And so it really did line us up for a great opportunity at my clinic because we gained so many wonderful clients during that time. And also, if you remember, that time was very stressful. So we also let go of a lot of clients during that time. Clients that couldn't, were abusing the staff, things like that. And so it was a perfect mix for us because we were gaining clients. And those that were super kind and understanding were the ones that we wanted, obviously. And then a lot of the clients that obviously weren't were the ones that were going elsewhere. So we were totally fine. Once COVID ended, it was just, we weren't struggling. We had a stream still of new clients and current clients. And so there's a lot to be said about that.
There's a relationship pipeline with clients. It's not just about them walking in the door. It's where are they in this relationship? Like, do they trust us? Are they comfortable coming in? Do they bring multiple pets and come in multiple times a year? Like, you have to work up to that. And so, putting it on pause at the very beginning is a dicey business. Anyway, this is great. Let's take a break and then we'll jump back in and we'll talk about some action steps. Let's jump back into some action steps here because you mentioned something that I thought was an ace I had up my sleeve, but you also have this same ace. And so we know 2 things. Number 1, there's only 2 aces left in our podcast deck. And number 2, this is probably a good idea. So before we engage with the staff and tell them what we want to do or even decide what we want to do, I think that we should go to our dashboard and really let's try to figure out what is actually going on. And are there any objective truths whether they support us being overwhelmed or support us not being overwhelmed, what can we look at to know what the actual story is? And so you talked about a staff efficiency ratio. And so I had a workload balance sheet as my ACE. I think that these are probably the same thing.
Sounds like
but
it,
go
yeah.
ahead, talk to me about your staff efficiency ratio.
Different companies will have different ways of calculating this, but essentially the main part is you should know how many actual hours it takes for you to complete the number of service that you're delivering. So in this case, if you're using like the income of the practice, right, as your efficiency, so you should already know how many hours you need for whatever desired effect. It's really the total output divided by the total input that equals your ratio. But a lot of times too, people can calculate this number based on the number, like the revenue that came in divided by the number of hours worked, and that'll give you a number. Right?
Okay.
And so then
I like that.
That number, like that's the simplest way of doing it. So that number tells you now, okay, this is how much money we made divided how many hours were given out, right? You've got a number that you can then manipulate up or down. And so the idea being, I know that we can generate this much revenue with this many hours, right? So that if, and that's your goal and your benchmark, so that if we generated a lot of revenue with less amount of hours, obviously our efficiency looks great. But if we generate it low with a lot of hours, then we have to start to question, why aren't we being as efficient as we could be, right?
Simple. So you're saying basically like you calculate revenue per man hour. So you were like,
yeah.
You were saying we were open for 10 hours, let's just say, and we had 5 support staff. So that's 50 man hours,
Correct.
just say. And then we take the revenue that we generated in that day and divide it by 50. And that number is either going, oh, okay, this was a fairly low number, meaning, and again, this is a rough back of the napkin math, but if the number's low, you'd say we probably were not maximally busy. And if the number's really high, you go, boy, we really had a lot of people generating a lot of revenue in this time, and they were probably stressed. And then you can start to match that up with how did we feel? If people are like, yesterday was complete chaos, and you look and go, yeah, that's a high, revenue per man hour. You guys really were busting it. If that becomes the norm, we need to make some adjustments. We need to add some man hours to bring that down for capacity. I really like that. Do you factor the doctors in to this calculation, or is this only paraprofessionals?
It's only paraprofessionals when I did the calculations at my clinic. It really depends on your model, though, because it depends on obviously how much each doctor is bringing in and whether they've got production hours and things like that. But really, it's just a simple metric for you to look at to make those kinds of decisions and to really be able to put some numbers to what people are feeling. Is this accurate or not? Because otherwise, you're just going based on feeling.
Yeah, so I like this a lot. So the workload balance sheet that I was looking at that I've seen before that I like, yours is definitely quick back of the napkin math. I actually really like it in its simplicity. And again, you can't overthink this. This is always going to be dirty calculation. There's just too many details and specifics and stuff, but we're just trying to get a rough ballpark. The workload balance sheet that I saw was basically for emergency clinics. And it was broken out into the categories of cases they saw. So like if there was an emergency that was just sort of in and out, that's a level 1. And then if it was hospitalized with minimal treatment, then that's a level 2. And if it was hospitalized, with significant treatment, then that's level 3. And they kind of broke up these categories. And so they had points for each of those appointments. So a level 1 is 1 point. A level 2 is going to be, 2 or 3 and sort of like that. And they would add up how many cases they saw in a day. And over the course of a shift, they would say, well, we had these. And the reason is because, the level 4 cases are going to take a lot more man hour and attention than the level 1 cases. And then they would offset those points with man hours. But the thing that they did, again, this is why it's a little bit more fiddly, if you will, they would break it out into high-skilled paraprofessionals. So like if you have your certified, experienced LVT, that person, their hours are worth more than your brand new level 1 assistant. I think that that's important, right? Because I would expect what a credentialed, experienced technician can handle and what they're able to do and how they're able to contribute. That's different than, your
totally.
assistant or a front desk person. And so anyway, what that is that's definitely a more advanced version of what you're doing. For most practices, it's probably not worth the extra effort to kind of figure that out and be like, well, how many points is your, experienced CVT worth? It's a little bit more advanced, but you can definitely do that of coming up with a way to sort of add points to the types of appointments you see and say, this is the picture of the workload, and then add points to your paraprofessionals and say, well, yesterday we didn't have a lot of assistants and the number of people was very low. However, we had 3 licensed technicians instead of the usual 1. And so we had fewer people, but the people we had really knew what they were doing. And so anyway, it's a way to try to dig into those numbers a little bit. But I think either of these are really good. And it's really how much do you care? How precise do you need to be? I think, honestly, I like things to be simple and quick and just give me a quick metric to kind of look at. And actually, I think that your staff efficiency ratio, probably for most people, is all that they need to get some type of a measurement of what they're looking at. I think you have to start with trying to figure out, what are we talking about? Is this real? Do we have any data to support or not?
And every clinic's going to run a little differently. When you really break it down, there are other metrics that I think are important that help paint the full picture. So for example, in this kind of case, like I talked about this earlier, but your retention numbers and your new client numbers are going to be crucial, because it's one thing if your new client numbers are at 0, but your retention is perfect, right? You're retaining every single client. And again, that's a mathematical formula because you have to go based on periods for retention numbers. And honestly, I will say for most PIM systems, you can, if they allow you to clock in like certain ones do, they actually have this already built for you. So you can contact your PIMS company and find out which reports you can get. But a lot of times you can already get a staff efficiency ratio or index, whatever you call it, from your PIMS report itself, because they're already clocking in that way. And you can also get your new client and your retention numbers already through there. But if not, then obviously it pays to know how to do the quick math if you are using kind of separate things. But it just goes down to the same simple thing is, you're not going to know what's real or what's accurate, what's a perception and what's true without having some sort of data attached to it. And so if you can measure it, you can absolutely manage it. And so you can absolutely manage how many new clients you're getting, whether you're getting too many, whether you do need to put them on a 2-week window, if you need to hire more people, if perhaps your people are just not moving as quickly enough, or if perhaps they're just not they're moving very quickly, but are we giving too much away, right? Like, are we discounting too much now because of the way that the state of the world is? You're not going to know what the real issue is without having those numbers. So that's number 1. For me, step number 2 is also the 5-fold why, because
okay,
might have even been number 1 actually before you even get to the metrics. But
no, I'm with you. You and I are definitely in the same headspace. So number 1 for me, I think you got to look at the metrics before you even start to this, like start to talk to this, because I want to have more information than none.
Yeah.
What I do. Number 1, that's for me. Number 2, I put make them feel heard, and root cause analysis / 5-fold why was the first bullet point under make them feel heard. Okay, so here's what we're talking about. I need them to feel heard because, and I think Maria said this right up front at the very beginning, which is true and important. They're having this experience. They're having a perception that they are overwhelmed. They are feeling that they are overwhelmed. Whether they really are at a high capacity or not, or near their maximum capacity or not, it doesn't matter, because people do not react to what is true. They react to their perception of the truth. Like, what do they believe is true? And if they tell you we are overwhelmed and you hear from multiple people, then they mean that they believe that they are overwhelmed. And you can't tell them you're not overwhelmed. Suck it up. We need to at least validate the feelings that they have or the experience that they have. And so that's making them feel heard. Root cause analysis is understanding what's really going on here. So when we say, I think we have to look at the root cause, to look at a root cause analysis here. What that means is I think we have to really kind of figure out what's going on. And the tool that we teach at Uncharted to use that is the 5-fold why. And so when the staff says, hey, we would like to stop making new clients, I would say, okay, tell me more. And what I'm really asking is why. But tell me more. Why is that? Why is that an attractive option? And they'll say, well, because we've got these doctors that might go out. And I'll say, okay, well, we've had doctors go out before, and I think we've managed really well, and we've got a good staff and a good team. What specifically are you concerned about with these doctors going out? And you can already see where I'm starting to frame this up. I've already taken us away from let's stop seeing new clients into what is your concern? And they'll say, well, being overwhelmed is terrible. And I would say, are you feeling overwhelmed now, or are you concerned that we will feel overwhelmed in the future? And I'm going to continue to ask those questions. This is not being patronizing. I really want to understand. And understanding is going to, 1, help me to understand where they're coming from and what's really important to them. It's probably not about new clients. It's probably about it's probably about concerns about the future more than anything. Yeah. It's probably not even what they're dealing with right now, but maybe it is. Maybe they were like, boy, Monday and Tuesday of this week were really very hard days. And I'll say, tell me more about that. We had a high caseload, but we've had like high caseloads before, but you guys don't usually seem to feel bad about them. Like, why was this day different? And now I'm really digging into the pain points. And I may never have to talk to them about new clients again if I can really figure out what the pain point is and say, it sounds like this is becoming a bit of a concern and you guys are really worried about this escalating when we're down a doctor. Is that true? And they say yes. And I go, oh. All right, well, let's talk about that then. And I never had to talk them out of the new clients. It was just the new clients was, to Maria's point earlier, which I thought was great, it's the lever that they know, and they know that you have pulled it before. And so they're like, pull that lever. Why do we need to pull this lever? What exactly is going on that makes you think that is a good strategy? And I'm genuinely curious. I want to understand. So I am right with you, Maria, on the fivefold why.
It's funny because, too, another thing that I think is really, really important when we're talking to the team about this and really digging into those pain points and those questions, I think it's also really important to consider what kind of style, the communication style that they have. And so obviously, I nerd out about this stuff all the time because I'm a discertified practitioner now.
I love it.
And so this is one of those things like I can't, but also because people are motivated by different things, right? So as you're asking these questions and things start just, kind of rolling out, I think understanding how they think is really important and also understanding what their priorities are, right? So if you're talking to a D-style person, understanding that they want results and efficiency, right? And so their concern is going to be that. So you can talk to them about that. Well, how can we get the same results and efficiency while still taking new clients? You got an S, they want harmony. It's like, well, the team really feels burnt out. They might not even have overwhelm, but your S might feel like the rest of the team is overwhelmed. And so now they feel like they have to, speak up for everybody. Same with the I. And so all of those things are going to help not just to formulate the questions and ask it to coach them through it, but also to be able to get them on the same page because you're going to be able to consider what their priorities are, what their motivators are, and what their stressors are, which also comes into place when they're fearing change, right? So I do think that there's probably something else going on here, another reason why they're feeling overwhelmed. But without kind of doing that, taking the time to dig in and find out what's overwhelming them or what really is going on, you're not really going to be able to solve the whole issue. So I think it's super smart.
No, I think you're spot on. So I really like this a lot about solving the issue. It's funny. The other thing that I will say that I find with the fivefold why sometimes is catastrophizing success is a behavior that is so common. I didn't realize it until just the last year or two. And it's funny how many people are like, if we don't stop taking new clients, then there's going to be new dairies that open up or they're going to hear about us because we're really great. And suddenly we're going to have so many people that want to work with us that it's going to be really challenging. And that may sound silly, but I hear that all the time as, what if we're shorthanded and the word gets out about our new groomer that we have, and then suddenly we're swamped. And the correct answer to that is to diligently write it down and say, okay, we are going to pay attention to the number of groomings that we're booking or the number of dairies that we're taking. And if this starts to materialize and we feel like we are gaining clients at a rate that far outpaces our natural turnover, meaning clients who are leaving, then we will revisit this and we'll consider making changes. But it's amazing how often I can head those things off by just calling out into the light, this is not a today problem. This is a potential future problem. And I promise we will watch it. And if it really starts to manifest as an actual problem, I promise you we are not going to wait until we get behind before we talk about adjustments that we will make. And that puts people at ease. But it's funny, I think a lot of times people they have this creeping dread that this could sneak up and suddenly everything will be terrible. And just telling them, I promise you that I will watch this diligently and make sure that it does not sneak up on us. And we will make changes if they are required, I promise. I think that's a big one.
I think that's so smart, especially with the people that get scared of this change, because there's so many people that will get scared because we're getting busier and things like that. And I think that that's where one of these action items that I want to make sure that I don't forget, talking about new clients and the number, that's also the benefit of measuring those metrics, is being able to talk to them about, hey, this is how many is healthy new clients. This is how many we're getting too many, right? This is a healthy retention rate. This is an unhealthy retention rate. So that they can kind of see those numbers. But also the more that they see that you are on top of those numbers, the more trust that they're going to have that you can make those decisions when it comes time to make those decisions, right? And then the other thing is allowing them to be a part of the solution to get their team buy-in. So back to my COVID story about we were super busy, we were super overwhelmed. I took this to the team and I said, we can't stop taking new clients because obviously we've talked about this many times. New clients leave. Old clients leave, new clients, come. So where can we help our clients to make sure that we're still... And they're the ones that came up with this triage list, this on-call list, where we were now triaging the calls that came through. If it was a wellness visit, it had to wait at least 2-3 weeks because we need to save same-day slots for the current appointments. And then, new clients can wait 2 weeks if they have to, but we won't stop taking them in. And so they found the solution, Andy. And because they had found the solution, they were using that on-call list very regularly. They were on top of it. We were able to move and flow really well without ever having to take new clients, away. But it's because they felt like their needs were being met, right? The overwhelm was there, but we were able to put something in place to still help them. Even if it meant, hey, we have a specific ratio of, because this is another metric too, we have a specific ratio of, we want at minimum 1 technician and 1 receptionist per doctor that is working. But our goal is to have 3 assistants, 1 receptionist per doctor that is working, right? Whenever we get to 2 assistants and 1 receptionist, that's when we start to block the tech column. We're not taking tech appointments now, so that we can have both of those technicians running rooms. But my team knew that, right? So they knew these thresholds that we had, and they knew that we were on top of it so that we could plan accordingly. So that when the day came through and maybe we were short-staffed because somebody called in, they knew that okay, well, if we're short-staffed 1 more person, we'll go ahead and block that tech column so that no more tech appointments come in and our techs are fully utilized for the appointments, right? It's also just making sure that we're almost having the conversation about new clients and these metrics in general on a regular basis so that our team knows that A, we're on top of it, and B, we need to celebrate new clients because there is also a value to them. And so a lot of times if they don't see a value in the new client, then they're going to want to pull that lever also. And so how are we talking about new clients? Are we celebrating the ones that come in that fit our client model? Are we doing, letters? Are we celebrating when we have more new clients than when we don't have more new clients? And I think that needs to be language that we talk about throughout the year, not just when vacation is coming up and we need to figure out what we're going to do, right? So it's my last
I really like it. You and I are very much in the same place. So after step 1 is sort of the look at my data, and step 2 is sort of making them feel heard and a root cause analysis. Step 3 for me was, clear as kind. Mm-hmm. And so I want to talk to them. I want to hear where their head's at. I'm not being dismissive of them. I want to understand. I might need to take a break here and say, guys, you've given me a lot to think about and look at. Let me go and look at this, and I'll come back with some ideas about how we might approach it. And you can end the meeting there and you can leave and you can think, and that's a perfectly valid way to approach this. You don't have to shoot it all the way out, today in this 1-step meeting. However, the next step for me after that is after I've thought about this, I'm going to come back and clear as kind. And so if we're not going to stop taking new clients, I'm going to say to the team, listen, I hear you guys. I understand that these are your concerns specifically. And I agree. We really don't want to get into a bad position like this. And I want to try to state all the things that I agree with them about. And then I'm going to say the hard part. And do not waffle on this. If you are adamant that you are going to keep taking new clients, like our writer who writes in, who has a very good reason, do not do the thing where you're out with your kids and they want ice cream and you say, maybe we'll get some later. If you're not going to get ice cream, then just say, hey, guys, we're not going to get ice cream today, okay? We're going to have fun. We're going to do other things, but ice cream is not going to happen this afternoon. Hey, let's go do something else. And again, I don't mean that to be patronizing, but in my kids, if I weren't going to get ice cream, I should tell them that we're not going to get ice cream. Because if I kind of halfway tell them, they will continually come back around and say, all right, now seriously, this has gotten worse. We need the X, Y, and Z. So anyway, if we really don't want to do it, then I think all the reasons that we laid out here to say, hey, we have real concerns about how the industry is going, consolidation, the closing of small dairies, really wanting to keep our practice healthy, the amount of time it takes to take a new client and start to build that relationship. There's a lot of things that make it really not ideal for us to turn away new clients. And I want to talk to you guys about other ways that we can make adjustments and meet these needs. I want to work with you guys collaboratively about how to relieve this stress or address these concerns. And that's when we go into a collaborative problem solving, which is just like Maria laid out, which I think you did it beautifully, Maria. Let's talk to them about how we handle this and what we do and be open to ideas. But ideally, as a leader, the best thing you can do is frame the problem and say, this is the problem. And these are the constraints within which we need to make a solution. And then you let them work. A lot of times when people say, well, I'm worried, Andy, I used to say, give them a problem and let them solve it. And people go, but I won't like what they come back with. And I would say, okay, that's good. I'm glad you said that. There's another step. Give them the problem and then give them constraints with when they have to work, which means we are not going to turn away new clients. Now, let's see what we can do to make this problem better. And so do the collaborative part. And then the last part is set up the ongoing check-ins, the continued conversations to let them know, hey, we're working on this. If you do make changes, even especially if they're changes they don't really like, I really like the idea of saying, we're going to do this and we're going to do this for 6 weeks. And then we're going to circle back around. I am going to have we can have a check-in meeting on this. I'll put this on the agenda. I'll meet with the doctors in 6 weeks and we'll talk about how it's going. And then that way, they might not like what you decided, but they at least have the comfort of it's only going to be for 6 weeks. And if we really hate it, then we're going to sit down with Andy and we're going to tell him that we really hate it. And he's a reasonable guy and he's not going to let us be miserable. And so anyway, that's kind of how I want to set up for the
I love
future.
that you said that, Andy, because you get an employee like me, a maybe means likely and a no means not right now. So
That's exactly right. That's 100%. My entire, we're not getting ice cream, Maria. Like that comes, comes from Maria
You said
Pirita.
we maybe would, and that in my brain said yes.
You said not right now, which meant it was probably going to happen later.
And look at what time it is. Later.
Yeah, and so anyway.
All right.
That's it.
So thank you, Andy. This was really, really fun. I had good time.
Oh, man, this is great. Guys, thanks for tuning in, everybody, to our writer. I hope that helps. I think that you're thinking about this the right way. It's funny. I will tell you, oftentimes, if we do a good job of making the staff feel heard, and we do that root cause analysis to understand why are they really feeling this way, and what are they really worried about, and what are their real concerns, oftentimes we can just kind of open up other solutions, and we don't even have to really tell them no for the solution they asked to. We just we can lead them on a journey of discovery, and oftentimes we can discover better solutions than the initial ones that we had. And so I'm optimistic. I think that you've got really honest, obvious, strong reasons for the path that you want to take. And I think your team is probably going to be more reasonable than you think if you kind of lay them out. And I think this is a good, honest approach that you've taken. And, I think people need to know that you care about them. And so just from reading sort of what our writer wrote in, it's like, I suspect that that's not a hard sell. I think that they probably know that you care about them. So anyway, I think this will probably go better than you think.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being here. Maria, thanks for your help.
everyone.
Guys,
Thank you.
Take care of yourselves, everybody. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
And that's it, guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks to Maria for jumping in and helping me. Guys, this is a great episode. I really hope our writer got a lot out of this and that it's going to be helpful for their team. But guys, take care of yourselves, everybody. If you've got a question for us, shoot it to us in the mailbag. Just send us an email. The email address is podcast@unchartedvet.com. That is podcast@unchartedvet.com. And we'll do our best to take a crack at it. Anyway, guys, take care. Be well. I'll talk to you later.